From the northern shores and woodlands to the west, it's history. From copper mines and iron ore, the Great Lakes fishery, to the farmlands of the southern counties and east to Chesapeake Bay. Look at all that waits the sportsman across the USA. And sometimes when the moon brings out the diamonds in the snow, the stillness of the forest is encased in Arctic cold. The wind might whisper through the trees, listen to it say the beauty of our great outdoors across the USA.
Hi there, come on in. If you're a deer hunter, you're going to be interested in the beginning of this program. We have a regional forecast around the Midwest, which really reflects around the country what deer season 1989 is going to look like. Set your VCRs because you're going to want to watch this one a second time. Call your buddies. It's a real corker. This, a great recipe, and a lot more, so stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost. It's time for the Outdoor Digest. Word has it that deer hunting in the Midwest will be the best ever in 1989. Bob Wood is Michigan's regional DNR wildlife biologist for the Upper Peninsula. Bob, is this season going to be a record breaker in the far northern states?
Probably. You see, we saw a major impact last year with lots of wet weather and lots of high winds, and an expected jump in the in the harvest never did really occur. We took a few more, so I guess I'm hedging based on the weather. But given a break, it will probably top any season we've had in the past.
Are the deer going to weigh any more or have any bigger racks this year than last?
We have excellent acorns scattered throughout the north country up here in the UP, and that will certainly have an impact on the fat. It'll certainly have an impact on the deer and their health. I suspect we had a small impact last year. We lost some animals because of the winter we had, and we lost, again, mostly fawns, around 70,000. There may be some small impact on that year-and-a-half-old buck class here, and therefore we may see in the bag some larger bucks coming, but we normally only take 50% of our deer as year-and-a-halves anyway, and there's a large supply of bigger bucks out there. So I think normally we have a pretty good representation of those bigger, older deer anyway.
Oh, that's a good sign. That last winter, hung on, which was kind of a surprise. I think all of us expected it would break early. That's what did the damage, huh?
Yes, in fact, I suspected had it lasted another 7 to 10 days, we'd have probably doubled our losses.
Which would have had a significant impact here
Significant impact, yes.
So we skirted that, and all in all, you're looking for a season that this coming year will, what you say, probably?
Yes.
Probably be the record.
That's right.
Okay, you gonna hunt?
You bet.
Okay.
You bet. I'm looking forward to that venison sausage.
Super. We might see you out there.
Like Michigan's northern forest, Minnesota was hit hard by the winter, but last year was a banner season, and it could be just as good this year in Minnesota. The Dakotas, north and south, had liberal regulations the past 2 years to cut back a burgeoning herd. They expect seasons as good as last year. In many areas, hunters had success of 70% plus, so plenty of deer in the Dakotas. Wisconsin is heading for another possible record. Their high was in 1985, where they took 274,000 deer. They've been trying to trim their herd, but this year could uncork another record. Wisconsin has an estimated 1 million deer in its herd. Michigan estimates 1.5 million. And I talked to wildlife biologist Gary Bushell about the situation in the northern lower peninsula where winter losses were minimal. Any effect from the drought a year ago?
No, we had some impact on some of the fruit production, but we have a very good to excellent acorn crop this year. And with some of the early storms we had, those acorns are on the ground, and the deer are working over pretty good.
And what about this Indian summer that totally fouled up our bow camp? I mean, deer hunting really took a rest for about a week there in that 70-degree weather. Does that postpone the rut a little bit, or?
Well, the rut's not based necessarily on temperature, it's more on daylight. But I can tell you right now, the animals are very active, and anybody driving in the north ought to be watching out for them.
Many other Midwestern states are looking for record harvests in '89, including Illinois, a state that has been setting records since 1977. They're looking towards a harvest of 50,000 or so this season. Indiana took 61,000 deer last year. A record this year will make it the 8th straight. Nebraska saw its 8th straight last year with 35,000 harvested, and Missouri also made it 8 in a row last year with a record 140,000 deer put in the freezer. Both states could see new records this season. Michigan, by the way, is eyeing a new record too. Last year's 384,000 whitetails harvested could be topped this year. A total, with good weather, could reach 450,000 for the state. Southern Michigan DNR wildlife biologist Ed Tucker sees nothing but promise in the farm country.
This is going to be really a fantastic year down here. We're really excited about what we expect to see taken in the line of deer. We hope to take about 150,000 animals, but I'm not sure that it's going to reach that. We took a little over 75,000 bucks last year, and a total kill down here for just the gun season alone last year was over 100,000 for the first time. So it's going to be an exciting year.
Did you say you think it is going to be better than last year, or maybe not?
Oh, I think it's going to be better than last year. See, we killed total about 132,000 animals total. You know, archery, gun, muzzleloader, and so forth. So we know that it's going to be more than that, or at least I feel very confident that it's going to be more than that.
Okay, these deer, of course, are the biggest deer in the state. Body weight, no question.
Well, they are big. Now, we know we get some real big ones from some of the places in the UP, too, and I don't want to get my counterparts up there mad at me, but we do get some big deer down here, too.
I mean, a lot of them that have come in, people have are 150, 200 pounds even.
Well, and our fawns down here are much bigger than they are up north, but they don't have the tough winters that they have up in Region 2 and Region 1, basically.
Speaking of farm country producing bucks, the state of Ohio hit a record last year, the first time topping 6 digits, 101,000 deer. And even though they trimmed their herd back, this season could be as good with lots of those big farm bucks available. Car deer collisions have increased about 10% a year in Ohio since 1977. They'll lose 18 or 19,000 deer this year on the highways, and it's up quite a few more deer than that in Michigan.
Oh, that's been increasing yet. I haven't seen, obviously, the latest figures because we just can't get them tabulated quick enough. But I figure this year we'll probably have still somewhere between 25 and 26,000 deer alone just in this region here.
A couple of other notable Midwestern state records. Iowa has gone 12 straight seasons, each year topping the last. Last year's 93,000 deer was up 20% over 1987. And this fall could produce the 18th consecutive record harvest for the state of Kansas, where hunters enjoy a 67% success rate. In most parts of the country, deer numbers are up, and the 1989 season looks to be another record breaker. That's a forecast from around the Midwest, which really reflects the entire country. Remember, if you get a buck that has 10 antler points or more, or has an outside spread, a maximum spread of 18 inches or more, either one, you can qualify for a Stroh's Hunting Award, a patch, the whole bit. You'll hear about that a little later, and that's how you can qualify to get in the trophy book.
Young Ira Studi has a handful of steelhead, 22 pounds, 2 ounces, caught it on a flatfish. Dean Emity's spring walleye was caught on a jig and minnow, was 29 and 5/8 inches long. And here's a burbot or lawyerfish, 9 3/4 pounds, caught by Robert Brazil on an alewife. Here's Steve Hunter with a dandy 14-pointer with an over 20-inch spread. Dan Leonard's opening day buck also had 14 points, and it was taken in a farm country. William Walker's 10-pointer with an 18 3/8 inch spread was taken with a bow. And Floyd Trish called up this massive gobbler with a 12-inch beard. Now, Tim Sievert is one happy 8-year-old. His 6-pound, 3-ounce bass came on a scientifically selected lure. You don't buy that? Okay, well, I'll let Tim tell you the story.
I was just fooling around in the tackle box and I took out a purple rubber worm, so I just casted it behind the boat and I thought I got hooked on a big weed, but then my drag started going and the fish started going around the trolling motor, so I gave the pole to my dad and he got it around the trolling motor and my brother Greg netted it.
Man, what a team effort.
great story of a good family effort, Tim. You've got some great memories, a super trophy, and our best wishes as our Outdoor Digest Trophy Angler of the Week. I hate to date myself, but when I was a kid, I saw plenty of public service announcements on TV warning about the dangers of blasting caps. Now, young kids were shown what they looked like, told never to touch them and to contact the authorities when and if they ever saw one. Now, the ads, they scared the dickens out of me and everyone else I knew, and they probably saved lives, not to mention lots of injuries. Now, that's why I can't help but think that there being guns in almost half of the homes in this country, and with a horrible possibility of young children encountering them without a responsible adult around, that there might be a place on TV, radio, and in print for a campaign to tell kids, if they see a gun, not to touch it. If another youngster has a gun, get away from them and let an adult, parent, teacher, police officer, whoever know about it. Guns are dangerous when not handled properly, and the message to youngsters to leave them alone could save a lot of lives.
To a farmer, a spud would be a potato. What is a spud to a fisherman? The most basic method of making a hole in the ice for ice fishing is chipping away the ice with a heavy, long-handled chisel. This chisel is called a spud, which the angler uses to spud the hole.
You've seen many trophy white-tailed deer, bear, and turkeys in the last couple of months of this show, The Outdoor Digest, but continuing through June 10th at the New Mexico Museum of Natural History is a display of world record big game trophies. The Boone and Crockett Club, which was founded in 1887 by President Theodore Roosevelt, has put together an impressive exhibit. 6 new world records are being shown, including 2 subspecies of barren ground caribou, a muskox, a Sitka deer, a cow's deer, and in a new category, a non-typical American elk. All of these animals were taken by hunters between 1985 and 1988. Determination of a new world record is made by a panel of judges who scores each individual trophy by standard Boone and Crockett methods that were first developed back in 1950. Although the Boone and Crockett Club was founded initially for conservation purposes only, it's expanded its role, and in 1932 it started keeping records of big game. The New Mexico Museum of Natural History is open daily. For more information, call the museum at area code 505-841-8837. For anyone interested in big game, this exhibit will be impressive.
What's interesting, I know, to a lot of people is this recipe.
Elaine Andrus sent us a recipe for venison curry, which was in our recipe contest last year.
It climbed right to the top.
It most
top
certainly
contender.
did, and I can see why. It's a simple recipe, but very, very good. You got your potatoes and cubed venison, curry powder, some onion, and some garlic. And you're just going to saute the onion and garlic until it just loses its color there a little bit.
Well, this recipe is seasoned well. Oh, look at those venison cubes.
No fat, no connective tissue, just excellent
those
meat.
are perfect. That's how venison should look.
Yes.
Everybody's going to love
and
that.
And it'll taste good that way. And then as much curry powder as you want. If you like more, add more.
Well, of course, it's a powerful spice.
It is, very.
It really is. You got to lay easy on it for Americans.
Yes. And then add water and just cover it up and let it simmer. And you want to just let it simmer until those pieces of meat are done. And they will get done just about the time potatoes
do. So tender. You know, this doesn't come out like a stew. It isn't real thick.
No.
And the question is, of people who are familiar with curry, is the curry overpowering? Well, we have one fella who can tell us that.
Well, I love curry anyway. And this recipe has just enough curry in it. You know, I liked it when it was part of the contest, but now the way you fix it is just the right amount of curry in it. It's just great recipe. Something a lot different with venison.
Something great to take to deer camp.
It tastes like it'd be easy.
It is.
It tastes like potatoes with curry, but I can taste the curry on the potatoes, but in the venison it tastes more like venison.
Oh, it does. It does. It really brings
tasty.
out the flavor. Yep. It's good to take to deer camp. In fact, In fact, the hardest thing I think about this recipe is getting the venison, right?
You know, I can barely taste a nutmeg.
Oh, knock it off.
Venison curry, a super recipe. And of course, if you're short on venison, feel free to use hamburger. Well, that wraps up another edition of Outdoor Digest. I hope you enjoyed the show. I especially hope you learned something, and I especially hope that you're inspired to get outdoors this weekend because it's a great place to be. See you next week. The buck hears her warning, but something still intrigues him. The wind is blowing slightly to the south. He licks his nose and cautiously angles this way. With the wind toward the deer, our scent, the urine, the ammonia, and the aftershave are all blowing their direction. They probably smell them all. Now the does are alarmed, but the buck, well, he's curious. Next week, we'll all be deer hunting. And for those of you who are at home watching the show, well, we're going to explain to you and show you what hunters are doing in the woods on opening day of deer season. We're also going to have a quick report from around Michigan and preparing for our big report the following week. So join me next week right here on Public TV.